2018 looks like it's shaping up to be another pretty great year for video games. There's already some great looking releases coming out soon and plenty more announced for later this year. With the big names getting plenty of coverage, I thought it would be fun to take a look at a few upcoming games that may have been flying under the radar for most people. Here are some possible sleeper hits you may want to keep an eye on in 2018. For those unfamiliar, which is probably quite a few people, the Disaster Report games are quirky mixes of survival and slice-of-life gameplay with some light puzzle-solving sprinkled throughout. They're usually delightfully cheesy, with characters having sometimes bizarre motivations and reactions to the disasters occurring around them. Disaster Report 4 originally started development for the PlayStation 3, but was halted after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. Development was restarted from scratch for the PlayStation 4 back in the year 2015, and the game is finally being released in 2018. There isn't an English localization announced yet, but I'm hoping we get one soon so we can share in the weirdness. Radiant Historia was criminally overlooked on the original DS. With an addictive puzzle game-inspired battle system and a story that breaks out of the usual JRPG tropes, it's definitely one of the hidden gems of the genre. Perfect Chronology is a 3DS remaster that is adding some new story elements, enhancing the visuals, and adding more music to the already incredible soundtrack. It's worth keeping an eye on if you're a fan of the genre who missed out the first time around, and if you're a fan of the original, the new features might be enough to consider picking it up again. This is a bit of an odd one. Sega is bringing back its Virtual On series after 15 years as a crossover with the anime light novel series A Certain Magical Index. I'm not familiar with the Magical Index series or how the two will tie in together, but a new Virtual On game is definitely something to get excited about. The arcadey mech battle gameplay is as fun as ever in the Japanese demo, and the game features an arcade mode so you can totally ignore the anime tie-in storyline if you want. An English localization hasn't been announced yet, but here's hoping we hear more about that later this year. Developer Experiment 101 describes Biomutant as a post-apocalyptic kung fu fable. It's an open-world action RPG with some good pedigree behind it, as a lot of the developers used to work at Avalanche Studios. The gameplay is a mix of melee and gun-based combat with some mutation powers coming into play. The mutation system itself looks very interesting, as it not only gives you new powers, but also lets you take on the features of other creatures. According to the developers, the game is already content complete, so we should see how their ambitious project pans out later this year. Based on a Japanese mobile RPG, Grand Blue Fantasy Project Re-Link is developed by Platinum Games. As such, this spin-off will be a stylish action game like the usual Platinum fare. Some cool-looking team-up attacks and party mechanics are being added in to spice things up. With legendary composer Nobuo Uematsu providing some of the game's soundtrack, we could be looking at another hit from Platinum later this year. I don't know much about Helix or this sequel, but after seeing this trailer, I had to put it on the list. The trippy visuals and psychedelic soundtrack are just way too intriguing to ignore. Games that look this unique don't come along every day, so it's probably worth keeping an eye on. Lost Soul Aside certainly looks good. especially considering it was made by just one man. The mix of Final Fantasy-style visuals and stylish action gameplay has been turning some heads since the trailers first appeared in 2016. I have some concerns that the developer might be biting off more than he can chew, but we will see how the finished project comes out. And those are some of the smaller games I'm looking forward to this year. If you have any other games that you think might be getting overlooked, feel free to let us know in the comments. Maybe I'll even do a follow-up video if I see enough intriguing stuff in there. Thanks for watching, everybody.